Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dr. Stephanie Evans, and I'm the chair of the Department of History here at Clark Atlanta University with a joint appointment in African American Studies and Africana Women's Studies. It is an honor for me to stand here before you today on the second event of the W.E.B. Du Bois Major Works Seminar Series. First, I would like to say, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. To Dr. Du Bois, whose birthday was yesterday. So if we could just take a minute to give thanks for the person whom we are here to celebrate, to interrogate, and all the other eights, we will bring his spirit and the spirit of the ancestors into the room. By God's grace. Welcome to the sojourn. Wisdom is the best of all treasures, said Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. And we are here to, again, collectively engage in a sharing of knowledge, a sharing of information, and a rededication of purpose. I attended junior high and high school, though I was born in Washington, D.C. I attended junior high and high school in Tucson, Arizona, where last year they passed HB, House Bill 2281, outlawing ethnic studies. It is against the law to teach ethnic studies in the state of Arizona. Last month, this was 2010, last month they actually physically went into the rooms of classrooms to remove books on Chicano history. Among those books was Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. There is something unique about critical race education, something so powerful that it has to be outlawed by regressive policies, and those who are caught teaching, the entire school district will lose 10% of its funding. That is the type of response to critical race research today. On the positive side, I just returned from a celebration at the University of Pennsylvania last week, where Professor Zuberi, the head of sociology, spearheaded an effort to get the University of Pennsylvania to recognize W.E.B. Du Bois as honorary professor emeritus. A little bit late, okay, a lot late. But his task was very significant and important. At the February 17th celebration at University of Pennsylvania, they had a full-day conference which included 3 panels, and I was on Who Was W.E.B. Du Bois, and proudly represented the South and historically black colleges, and particularly Clark Atlanta University, where Du Bois was a faculty member for 23 years. Though he was at UPenn for 1 year in 1897, as an assistant researcher in sociology, he has been unanimously voted by the Department of Sociology, by the Department of African American Studies, and by the Board of Trustees to Professor Emeritus status. There were 3 panels: Who Was W.E.B. Du Bois, Du Bois in Social Change, and Du Bois in Africana Studies. There was a full art installation of the 18 panels of the Philadelphia Negro, an artistic rendition of the meticulous research and data that Du Bois collected during his year, a little bit more than a year-long study of the 7th Ward of Philadelphia. There was an entire movement, a jazz piece choreographed with multimedia presentation for a full jazz band, that was presented at the end of this one day. He was there for 1 year. Now, I really, again, respect the University of Pennsylvania's recognition, but what that does is reaffirm Clark Atlanta's current movement to fully recognize Dr. Du Bois, who also has the nation's tallest library named after him at University of Massachusetts Amherst, where I graduated, which housed his papers down the pike from the Harvard Du Bois Center. So what we are doing here is significant because we are grounding Du Bois in the South. And today's panel, where we are critically interrogating race by looking at some of the Atlanta University publications, by looking at the Philadelphia Negro, we are resituating Du Bois as a Southern scholar, not because he was from the South, but it was because here, from New England when he went to Fisk, here from New England when he came to Clark Atlanta University, that he developed critical race research in Atlanta University publications in the Phylon magazine, and Phylon means race in Greek, that he established the School of Sociology, but he's also recognized in Africana Studies because he was a historian, because he wrote novels, he wrote poetry, he wrote plays, and he brought in all of the other disciplines that form the interdiscipline of Black studies. So I am grateful to all of my colleagues here at Clark Atlanta University who have resoundingly applauded this effort, and to the upper administration, the president, the provost, and the College of Arts and Science dean who were on the last panel, and to Arthur McFarlane, the great-grandson of Du Bois, who was here last month, who set down a challenge, very much like the challenge he set at University of Pennsylvania. Lovely, we're celebrating the name. Now what? How do we embody the legacy of understanding this is the University of Clark Atlanta University, of the AUC, right? And really take forward this legacy of research. So I'm grateful to my colleagues, 50 of which have signed up to help us discuss W.E.B. Du Bois. Today's reading, number 3, Atlanta University, number 3, Some Efforts of American Negroes for Their Own Social Betterment, published in 1898. The Philadelphia Negro, published in 1899. Atlanta University Publications, number 10, Select Bibliography of the Negro American, and Select Discussion of Race Problems. And the student representative who is here, who is supposed to be here to represent Clark Atlanta, sends her regrets, but she had a family issue, so I'm just going to set the stage, and that will give more time for the panel and more time for discussion. I've asked the panelists each to keep their comments to about 10 minutes, so the first hour will be the panelists, but this is really supposed to be a community discussion. I'm so grateful. Woo! Christie Garrison Harrison, a true Panther, is a doctoral candidate in the field of history at Georgia State University, so she's both a Black Panther and a Blue Panther. She is also pursuing a certification in women's studies. She is an adjunct instructor at Clark Atlanta University, and her Master of Arts is in African American History from Clark Atlanta University, and a Bachelor of Arts in History also from Clark Atlanta University. I'm not going to read the entire bios. Please visit www.cau.edu. There's a Du Bois signature on the left, and you can click on that. It's got all of the bios and information. And this is being recorded, and so all of the panelists' presentations will be available on YouTube as well. Dean Terry Mills. Dean Mills completed his PhD in sociology from the University of Southern California, where he was also a National Institute of Aging pre-doctoral fellow, conducting research on the USC longitudinal study of generations of the Ardress Gerontology Center. Dean Mills is the Dean for Research and Director of Office for Sponsored Programs, Professor of Sociology at Morehouse College. Prior to Morehouse, at the University of Florida.
Go Gators.
Yeah, go Gators. Well, where he was among one of my many mentors. Dean Mills served as Assistant Dean of the Graduate School and Director of Office of Graduate Minority Programs. Dr. Beverly Guy Sheftall. Need I say more? Dr. Beverly Guy Sheftall, an amazing institution and inspiration, and after all the years of me stalking her intellectually, this is our first time meeting in person, so it's an honor, is the founding director of the Women's Research and Resource Center at the Anna Julia Cooper Professor and Anna Julia Cooper Professor of Women's Studies. She is also adjunct professor at Emory University Institute for Women's Studies, where she teaches graduate courses. and she she has taught at Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama, and then in 1970 returned to her alma mater, Spelman College. She's my model, actually, what I'd like to be here at this institution. Dr. Akinyele Umoja is an educator, scholar, and activist. Dr. Umoja is an associate professor and chair of the Department of African American Studies at Georgia State University. As a professor in the Department of African American Studies, Umoja is responsible for teaching courses related to the history of people of African descent in Georgia, courses on enslavement of African people in the New World, African religion and philosophy, and 19th and 20th century Black political and social movements. He is also the local representative presiding for NCBS, National Council of Black Studies, which will be here in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. So see Professor Umoja about the upcoming conference on race, the National Council of Black Studies. And Dr. Kurt Young, an associate professor of political science and African American studies at the University of Central Florida. Dr. Young was born in Belize City, Belize, grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, and Tampa, Florida. He attended the University of Florida, go Gators, where he received his undergraduate degree in history, and was invited here because he also is a Clark Atlanta alumni, earning his MA in African and African American Studies and PhD in Political Science in 2002. So as you can see, we have a very powerful, packed panel, and I turn it over to the first speaker, Christie Garrison Harrison.